Sometimes the hinges of history swing on what would seem to be minor events, small twists and turns and missteps that end up shaping the future in profound ways. This would be the case in December of 1862 during the American Civil War. Frustrated with the slow pace of the war and defeats on the battlefield, in November, President Abraham Lincoln replaced the hesitant and arrogant commander George McClellan with General Ambrose Burnside. Hoping to take the fight to the Confederates, Lincoln approved a plan for Burnside to march a massive army south into Virginia. The target? Richmond, the capital of the Confederacy, just a few days' march away. Seizing the capital would bring the terrible and bloody war to an end. At least, that was the plan. General Burnside acted, racing an army of over 100,000 men toward Richmond before General Robert E. Lee, the Confederate commander, had time to realize the intended target. The only thing that stood in the way was a small river by the town of Fredericksburg, known as the Rappahannock, named for the native people of the region. To help them cross the Rappahannock, the Union Army ordered that pontoon bridges be rushed to the site. However, in an unforgivable blunder, Henry Halleck, the Army chief, and Montgomery Meigs, the Quartermaster General, failed to prioritize the request. Only belatedly were the bridges dispatched, along with the 50th New York Engineers, who would have to assemble them. In another unanticipated hinge of history, heavy rains made the roads impassable, further slowing the delivery of the pontoons. The engineers were forced to float them down the Potomac River, delaying their arrival by several more days. As a result, the massive Union Army spent part of November and December stuck on the northern side of the Rappahannock, waiting. Frustratingly, only a small force of Confederates on the south side of the river stood between Burnside's massive army and Richmond, and thus victory. The pontoons and engineers finally arrived on December 10th and quickly began constructing two small bridges, one at the southern end of Fredericksburg, the other at the northern end of town. The rebels wisely waited until the engineers were partway across the river and in range of the sharpshooters. Then, in the pre-dawn hours, infantry regiments from Mississippi, along with the 8th Florida, opened fire on the defenseless engineers. An officer dropped dead on the bridge. Beside him, 2 engineers were killed. Others fell wounded. A barrage of musket balls clinked off the small boats and pontoons and sent small plumes of water into the air before the brave engineers, under withering fire, were forced to fall back. Again and again, the engineers tried to complete the pontoon bridge, but were targeted by the Confederate sharpshooters across the river. Union commanders were forced then to send men from the 7th Michigan and 19th Massachusetts across the Rappahannock in small, clumsy boats. Exposed on the 400-foot wide river, they rowed frantically amidst the maelstrom of lead. But it was all for naught. The delay waiting for the arrival of the pontoons proved costly. It gave the Confederates time to rush reinforcements to the site of the battle. The ensuing fight, over 4 days in mid-December of 1862, ended in a devastating defeat for the Union Army. 12,500 casualties, and what would end up being not the surrender of Richmond and the end of the conflict, but one of the largest and deadliest engagements of the Civil War. Richmond stood. The rebel cause was given a boost, and the war would drag on for another 2.5 long years, claiming hundreds of thousands more lives. The incident would mark one of the first river crossings by an army, one of the first deployments of a portable bridge, and one of the first beachheads established in American military history, but it was too late. It would also prove to be the longest 400 feet of the Civil War.